I am basically going in with, I have some alizarin crimson. Way too much. I have, and honestly, I'm going to go in with some Payne's Gray. So, and a little bit of yellow. And that's really it.
So Payne's Gray.
Payne's Gray. And in this case, so I'm into her. I've already done her arms. I'm looking at this, and I'm not loving the way this came out. This is a little too dark here. So I'm adding some water, just straight water, and I'm softening that up a little bit.
Her arm.
And I've lost a little too much. I mean, I want dark on dark, but I want you to be able to see her arm.
No, I'm coming up because I need to see it close up.
So I'm going back over her arm, and I'm picking up a little bit of the pigment that I'd already put down to make her arm stand out from the background a little bit better. So I want it dark on dark, but I want it distinguishable, right? So I don't want a complete lost edge there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because I want you to be able to see her arm, even though it's in shadow. I don't want it to disappear.
The top part of her arm, though, are you wanting that to like disappear, or are you wanting that to...
I'm going to leave it about where it is here. And guys, I mean, this comes down to preference, right? Yeah, I'm trying to hit the whole Rembrandt thing, but I also want this to be a good painting, and I want it to be believable. So just because Rembrandt says that is a dark on dark. So there's nothing wrong there. But you can see her arm now a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Way better.
And I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll reevaluate. And I may want to pick up a little bit more pigment, or I may leave it alone. Notice I've got this paper towel in my left hand, and I am constantly striking this balance between water and pigment on my brush. And what I use my paper towel for most of the time is removing not just water from my brush, but pigment from my brush. So I'll go in and I'll mix up some paint, and I'll have a little puddle here, and I'll get going with what I think is going to be, my correct value water pigment ratio. And so I've got it on my brush. But once I've come in contact with my painting, now I'm reevaluating almost immediately. And I'm deciding, is that good enough? Do I need more water? Do I need more pigment? All right. So in this case, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to start working on her leg. And I'm going in, and again, I'm playing in an area where I've got Payne's Gray, yellow ochre, and a little alizarin crimson. Okay. And I put it down. I like that. I think that's good consistency. That's not bad. And I'm going to do a little negative painting. I want her dress to look a little bit like it's got some folds in it. Now, and now I'm going to come down here. Now I put too much pigment, right? I picked up too much pigment. So all I did was hit my brush again with water, take the pigment out of my brush, and now I'm going to go back into it, and I'm going to lift up the pigment that I put too much of down. And I really did put too much down. I don't know what I got, like a real solid piece of paint or something somehow. Now if I don't like it,
Yeah.
I can pick it up
Oh.
and try again.
He didn't like that.
I didn't like it.
Well, that's me, lots. So it's
Yeah,
the
me
skill
too.
I need.
Me too.
Now that I did that,
That's why we do tests.
this is basically water on the paper and it's still wet.
Right.
So now I can start going into it with a little bit of, so now I'm going to add a little bit of burnt sienna and yellow ochre. And you see how it's blending out,
Yeah.
okay? And that's what I want. I want a little bit of blending out. Now, I've gone completely water. So now I've gone less water, less pigment, more water. Now I'm just going down to water. And I'm going to pull that edge. Look at how I softened that edge right up.
Yeah.
All right. Now up here, I don't have as good of a transition as I want. So I wet it, I pick it up. And I want a little bit darker in there.
It's a little wet, so it's sort of bleeding a little.
Look at that. It softened it right out. All right. So again, I'm going to go into here. I'm going to put in this edge. Look how realistic she's already. I mean, the leg is looking pretty realistic, right? So I'm just playing around. I'm using that neutral tint to either darken up my yellow ochre. I'm dabbing just a little bit of red into it. I just want a little bit of red. And I'm putting a little bit of burnt sienna in every now and then. Just a little tiny bit. And so now I'm going to do and put this shadow in over here. And look how, I mean, because I masked this off, now that leg is really standing out from the background really well, right? And you can't get, like, if I had painted negatively around that, it wouldn't, there's no way I could have got that fine a detail.
No.
There's no way I would have had that fine of an edge. I would have lost control of it. So in this case, I'm going to come down here, and I only want a little tiny bit. I'm going to leave her slippers pretty white and just put a little bit of shading on them. Not much there. And I'll go in and just darken up the straps just a little tiny bit. Now I may not be able to do this right now because
Right.
if there's too much water in it, then it will fuse out and I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to leave it alone. Quit messing with it. We're going to go back and do the back leg. So again, I'm going dark. And this is a mixture of neutral tint, yellow ochre, and a little bit of crimson in there. Not much. So I've got enough pigment. Now I'm going to start feathering it out. And now I'm just going in with water. This is just water. And I'm moving what I've got enough pigment on the paper, and I'm just manipulating it. Now, the thing I want y'all to all look at, how many strokes was that?
Maybe 6, maybe
Yeah,
5.
not a lot.
And I've watched every one of you, y'all probably would have taken 30 strokes on that.
Not only 30 strokes, I would have put down wet water first, then I would have put some color in, then it would have been lost, then I would have dabbed it up, then I put more, and then it was a mess. Then at that point, I've got a headache going.
Mm-hmm.
So
So now it's kind of judging, when does the water, I want it to get to a certain level. I want it to dry out just a little bit. Now I'm going back in with more color, and I'm going to darken up because I want the back of this leg to have a little more shadow on it. And I'm coming down here. And now I'm going to add a little bit more pigment. And we're coming in here, we want kind of a dark back leg. And again, I just took all the pigment out of my brush. I do it really fast, guys. It's
He's sneaky.
so I'm getting my brush to the right level of moisture. I want some moisture because I'm going to go in and I'm going to put it down, and look at that.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yep.
That's how I get a soft edge. That's really important skill to learn. And now, look, I waited for this leg to dry, and I went in and I softened the edge right up to it. Look at that. Now, I still want it a little bit darker. And now I'm playing with the water level and moving it around just a little bit, give myself a shadow.
What brush is that you're actually using?
This brush is a Princeton Aqua Elite Round. It's a number 2.
2?
And to be honest, guys, I would normally not use a brush this small. I mean, this is detail work, so it's very rare that I pull out a brush this size. Very rare. Most of the time,
It's got mostly big stuff.
yeah, look at the brushes I use.
Right.
They're all big. All right, so now we're going to go back up here into her dress. Oh no, first I want to do this other leg. And notice, guys, I mean, how fast is this going? So I need a darker edge here. So I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to add a little bit more. Same stuff I've been using. Now I take some of the pigment out of my brush and I'm going to soften up the line. So I'm just getting it up to the value I want, because as it's drying, I'm seeing it's not quite where I want it. And now, again, rinsed all the pigment out, took some of the moisture out, and I'm going to soften up that edge right there. I don't really need it right here, but I'm going to do it anyway. And now I'm getting a kind of a weird shadow, so I want to go back in here and straighten that out a little bit. I want to leave a little bit of reflective light on the back of her leg. So I'm coming in with clear water, taking most of it out of my brush, and picking up a little pigment, softening up that edge right on the back of her leg. Does that look good?
Oh, yeah.
It makes it look more round,
Mm-hmm.
like her calf
The whole time I'm doing this,
or thigh.
I'm not looking at the picture anymore. I'm looking at my study. Because what I'm trying to hit here, what's going to make this painting 10 times more believable than anything else is the values. The color is really a secondary or third player. It's the values that make this or break it. So now, to be honest, I've got some blues in the background. I've got some reds in the background. I've got some other colors in the background. Where do you think the best place is for those colors to kind of reflectively show up on her?
Dress.
In her dress. So I'm thinking about that, right? So I'm thinking, okay, well, let me come in here and pick up some of my blue and pull it over here to my little puddle with my sorry, probably easier to do it this way. Pick up some of my neutral tint, bring it over here to my blue. I really want just a hint of blue. I don't want it to get too blue. All right, so now I'm going to come in here. Again, I'm going to go swipe. Okay, now I can see how much pigment did I lay down.
A lot.
I laid down a lot. So now I've cleaned out my brush and I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to start moving it, and it's not clean enough. I want more pigment off of it. So I'm going to come back in and I'm going to start picking it up. That's way too much. Way too much. I don't got crazy on that one. So now I'm adding a lot more water. And I want to add a little bit more water before I do this.
Oh.
Why did you want to add more water?
If I don't add enough water and I left it as a heavy pigment on there and tried to wipe it, I would push most of that pigment into the crevices of the paper and it would not come out. So I need to hydrate it to be able to lift it.
Okay.
All right? So if you ever get yourself in a situation where you laid down too much pigment and you want to lift it up, get it wet and then lift it.
Okay.
All right? But really, I kind of ended up with something close to what I wanted anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So now I'm going back in, and this is more like what I was after. I want that kind of a look. And I'm okay with a little extra blue going in there. Now, I'm gonna leave it like that, but I'm gonna show you, I was talking about this accumulative effect, right? So I'm not gonna go back over this yet, but I'm gonna come in here and put in some of my darker recess colors. I'm a big jazz fan, by the way. So you don't have to go, when you're doing detail work like this, I don't just go dark to light. I can move back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So in this case, I'll go ahead and keep following this up. I'm adding a little more pigment because I want a little bit more pigment on here. And I'm going to come in. And I want this nice and, women have curves, we want her curvy. Okay, so notice this is a little bit different approach that what I'm taking here is I am doing some of my darks up front, but I have a plan because if you look at my background here, it's pigmented and I didn't do it over here yet. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of putting in my darks first, and then I'm going to come in and accent that with a few lights. I'll show you how to do it in a minute.
What color are you using now? What are you using?
This is basically a little neutral tint with some ultramarine blue mixed in.
So you really like neutral tint to darken something?
It's kind of a go-to, but
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with using Payne's Gray. I have used several things. I mean, I'm not like, oh, it's got to be
Right.
neutral tint, you know. Now, I will say, I could go with a complement color and get a neutral gray out of it. So if I'm dealing with blue, what's the complement to blue? Orange. So if I mix some orange in here, and I could do that. I mean, I have a little orange right here, and if I mix a little orange and blue together. Now, unfortunately, that's going to pull up some green. I don't want green. Came out green. So we need a little more orange, and I don't have anything working as orange right now, so I could go in with my, that's pretty good. And I will get a dark color that if I back off of it, then it'll turn into a gray. So, but in this case, it's just as easy for me to use a little
Yes.
neutral tint.
Sure.
So,
I mean, sometimes you don't want to make yourself nuts. You
no,
just want
and you could, right? I could spend a whole lot of time chasing that gray,
Yes.
or I could just use Payne's Gray.
Right, right.
All this is for me is pushing back and forth between, and you want a clean paper towel, is pushing back and forth between the amount of water and the amount of pigment I have in my brush. That's all it is. That's all I'm really doing. Too much water, so I tap my brush against my paper towel, take out some moisture, and of course now I'm spreading it around, right? So, I mean, again, it's just different forms of control over how much water and how much pigment is on my brush or on the paper. And again, the other thing I'm doing is, this is all about edge control. I want soft edges in certain places. I want hard edges in other places. I want a mixture. And then, let's see. I want a little bit of pigment. I don't want a lot.
And you need to come to our palettes.
Do what?
If you just want a little bit of pigment, you ought to come to our palettes.
Well, I will say, you guys are you're not using enough water, you're not using big enough, and you definitely need to mix bigger
Puddles,
puddles.
yes. I'm learning that.
Now, as I'm going back over this, look what's happening. The pigment I already put down is still staying there and it's accumulating. So the pigment I put down, as I go in and I add this, it's staying there, but it's also making what I already put down darker. So you see how I can go in and I can put in a background that will have some lighter effect to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Happy Left-Handers Day.
I'm sorry.
Happy Left-Handers Day.
Oh, thank
Happy
you.
Left-Handers Day. That's awesome. My dad was a left-hander and my daughter's a left-hander.
I didn't even realize.
My sister, my nephew, and my uncle are all left-handed.
Both of my daughters are, and neither of my husband
That's
are.
remarkable.
But his sister is
My husband says I'm wrong-handed.
wrong-handed.
And for years, that's what they told any left-hander
I
they knew.
know. Trust me, my grandmother said that I was the devil, a product of the devil. She was serious too. Obviously, she was not my favorite person.
I would say not.
That's kind of cool.
She was serious.
I think the older generation could be cruel.
Yeah.
Yes, we can be.
And she was much older.
So it's still wet in there. I don't want to play with it too much. I'm going to let that dry. And
So in this instance, we really have to have a good value painting. I mean, because you keep looking at that all the time, and that's what's driving your choices.
absolutely. Absolutely, 100%.
Should I make this? This is okay?
You did finish that
This
leg.
is all right?
I'm gonna. I will come back to it. Oh, get that leg right now.
Straight days.
I'm going to get that leg right now.
I still am drawn to all those red splotches, I swear.
You can't stop seeing
I
them?
can't stop seeing it.
That's funny.
All I can see is my youngest son would say, I really like that look.
So, again, you remember the exercise where we painted the flower and I was like, try and do this in 5 strokes.
Right.
I mean, the fewer strokes I use, the better it looks. You know, to be honest with you.
But I found that this took a lot more strokes than, this is not a picture you can do in an hour, I don't think.
No, probably not. But, you know, if you look at my total painting time on this, I did the first half of it right here in class with you. It was about an hour and 15 minutes. And then I just finished it up here. I painted that entire painting in maybe 2.5 hours. Maybe less.
You're right.
Wish I'd seen that background. Is that up on video now?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay.
What background?
I can put that background in there. I did not.
All right.
Did you lift or?
Almost looks, in the black and white, it almost looks like curtains.
It is.
I like the black and white background better than I like mine.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I still think this came out good. I'm not upset with it or anything.
Yeah. But it looks like she's standing at the edge of the stage next to the curtain
Yeah.
in the black and white folds. Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just gonna keep bugging you. Is that better for the bottom?
But the one thing I will point out to all of you is, if you look at your paintings and you look at, all of you are not getting into your darkest values. You're stopping at your midtones. And if you stop at your midtones, you are never going to achieve, you're never going to get that dimensional look that you need. You're leaving out a third of your painting. I'm like, what what's going on in there? I thought they were playing basketball, and then I thought somebody's beating clay. All right.
Eating clay.
I'd say
Artwork.
I think they're throwing it.
Hardest thing for me is I never
Damn,
paint that
Somebody can breathe in
exact.
there.
You don't have to. I mean, to be honest with you, I think paintings, and that's why I stick with bigger brushes, because once you pull out that small brush, you're going to get detail.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to go super detailed. And do you really need it to be that detailed? A lot of times, suggestion is way better than, alluding to something is more intriguing than stating it outright. So as I step back from it, and you should always do that, step back from your painting, take a look at it. What do I feel needs a tweak here and there? I think I could go a little bit darker here. Just a little. So I put in a little pigment. Now I'm going to spread it around. Want that back leg to stand out a little bit better. Stand back from it, look at it. I still think her back arm is a little too dark. So I'm going to pick up some more pigment. I want it to be dark, but I don't want it to be too dark.
And you're doing that with just plain water?
This is just plain water.
Okay.
A little too dark.
Yeah, that looks much better.
And really what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm picking up pigment.
So is it just a water in your brush?
Just water.
And you're just, but you're not touching a paper towel to it,
I'm,
just.
I'm after I hit the painting,
Yeah.
I am absolutely touching my brush to take the pigment off of the brush.
Okay, because otherwise you
Wet
just
it
bring
again.
down.
And I'm going to go back in and pick. So now I'm getting down to, I've removed quite a bit of pigment. So I want to be careful here. I don't want to go too nuts.
Right.
I want to leave it in the dark.
Is the back side of her arm supposed to go into the background totally, or?
No, it's just a dark on dark, right?
Okay.
So that is definitely a dark arm on a dark background.
Okay.
But when I step back here now,
You can see it's
it,
an arm.
I can see it's an arm.
Yeah.
It doesn't become a completely lost.
Appendage.
Yeah. And in this case, we want it dark, we don't want to lose it. So I'm picking up some of my darks here because I think it's too weird of a shadow that my brain can't interpret, right? So I want this to be a little bit more transitional. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Will you bring any of the pink of your background into her dress at all?
I mean, I kind of did. I pulled some blue in. There's definitely some blues in there. I mean, if I wanted to, I could pull a little bit of red. I would be very careful with that.
Just a hint somewhere.
You don't have to do a lot. Here's a little bit of red. But again, I'm not trying to make her dress red, right? I'm trying to show some reflective colors.
Exactly.
That's it. Her ballet slipper's a little too bright, so we're gonna darken this up a bit.
Did you do any shadows under her feet?
Nope.
Because on the photograph, it looked like there were a little bit.
I'm not worried about, in this case, I'm not worried about shadows on the ground, but if I was, I mean, under normal circumstances, yes, you would want a shadow. I'm not, and I could do that right here,
I just lifted the.
but I don't think it's necessary. In this case, I want her to look a little bit as though she's just floating on the stage, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, you could put a shadow in if
Well,
you
I
want.
really want a shadow was like a reflection of her feet kind of on the
You
stage.
can do that, sure.
Yeah.
I think her back one is a little too, still a little too bright.
Are you using neutral tints?
I put in a little blue and a little neutral tint and a little bit of everything. That's better. All right. So I'll tell you one thing that's bugging me is this white spot right here,
Where?
right here,
Your hands underneath.
right here
And your background.
in my background.
Are you talking about that little?
I think that is very annoying. So.
Why is it there?
Because it's just a spot where when I was going through with the diagonals in the back, it just skipped it. But you look at my reference and it's not like that, right? And here, we know the first thing that's going to happen is contrast is the first thing that your eye's drawn to. And we don't want that to steal the show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with a little zap of blue and a little zap of red. So I'm going to go.
It looks like that line continues down underneath their arm, but it's way darker.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go with a little bit of, you know what? Let's try and make it just, let's see what this looks like. Take out a little bit of the glare. Better. Better. Let it dry a little bit. It's probably still going to be a little too light, but. See, now it got into her arm. I don't want it in her arm. That's pretty good. What do you think?
Yeah, let it dry, I think.
Yeah, I think her leg here is a little too light. So I'm going to go in and do another shadow on her leg.
The inside part of her thigh on the back leg. It looked like it had more shadow.
It does.
To
It
be on the
has, yeah.
inside.
All of that dried lighter. And again, I will tell you that it's way better if you can hit these values the first time and not have to keep going into them. Because every time I touch this wash, it's going to get muddier, it's going to get less interesting, it's going to become more of a problem.
Is that what they mean when people say it's so fresh?
Yes.
So you've touched it one time and you've left it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Now I have seen people who can do multiple washes over and over and just create almost photo quality, paintings. Just they come out looking just amazing. I mean, I can do close to that, but I am a firm believer that the less strokes you use, the better. Okay. And that back leg needs to be a little darker. So I put a little pigment on there. Now I just doing straight water. And I'm going to feather that pigment out.
So when you're not doing fine work and you're doing something big and you're using those big brushes, are you using that same technique?
Same technique. Same exact technique.
Um,
Same exact technique.
Even with that big brush, you're able to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm able to do it even better with the big brush. Like there's a few photo quality artists out there, and if you watch them paint, like and that's what I do in my spare time, is watch people paint. They use the same exact thing that I'm doing. So people just scale it up, scale it back, scale it up, scale it back. Now there are artists like you're not going to see. Say for example, this is figure painting where I need soft transitions, I need soft edges because the contour of our bodies, we got cast shadows, we've got contour shadows. So you need a lot of soft edges. You need soft edges on faces, which we're getting ready to look at. It is 3:30, so I got about an hour to go. I really only got about 30 minutes of the class left I can paint. So I'm going to set this off to the side, and then we're going to start on a portrait. And we'll finish this portrait next week.
He's so positive. We're going to finish it next week, right after we finish that shed and the ballerina, and then we work on our portrait.